never thought I'd dread my own son's embrace. The Christmas lights twinkled overhead, wrapping the estate in warmth and luxury, but inside me was only cold. I could still feel the silk of his suit against my cheek, but his words were what? Cut deepest. Enjoying the $5,000 a month, Mom? Just loud enough for me to hear, quiet enough to pass as affection. I laughed. I had to. I was standing in the middle of his Christmas party, a social circus of executives, influencers, and tech millionaires he now called friends. I clinked my glass against his and smiled like the proud mother I was supposed to be. But my hand trembled. He noticed. Of course he did. He planned it that way. No one here knew the truth. They saw a polished man, mid-30s, charming, wealthy beyond imagination, the picture of success. My son, Evan Roth, CEO of Roth Innovations, the so-called Silicon Messiah. They didn't see the scars under his designer suit. The ones I helped him hide growing up. They didn't see the sacrifices, the lies, or the nights I went hungry so he could eat. Or the betrayal I never saw coming. I raised Evan alone. His father, my ex-husband, was a ghost long before he actually died. Evan was 7 when the man walked out with a duffel bag and the last of our rent money. I worked double shifts, cleaned houses during the day and worked the night desk at a hotel. I didn't sleep. I didn't complain. I did it all for Evan. I kept telling myself one day he'd see it. Appreciate it. He was always bright, that boy. Curious, intense. By 14, he was teaching himself to code. At 16, he built a server farm in our garage with parts scavenged from junkyards and eBay. I didn't understand a word of what he did, but I bragged to everyone my son was going to change the world. He got into Stanford on a scholarship. I remember the day the letter came. I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was terrified. I had no idea how I'd cover what the scholarship didn't. Housing. Food. The extra fees. He promised he'd find a way. He did. I should have asked more questions. But when the money started rolling in, his little side projects, he said, I was just relieved. We were finally okay. He moved fast. Too fast. Before graduation, he dropped out and founded his company. 2 years later, he was a millionaire. 5 years after that, he was on magazine covers. The boy who built the future. And me? I was still in the same house. Still clutching bills. Until one day, a wire transfer showed up in my account. $5,000. No note. No call. Just the number. It came every month after that, like clockwork. When I asked about it, he smiled and said, You deserve it, Mom. You supported me. Let me take care of you now. For a moment, I let myself believe it, but things changed. Slowly at first. He stopped calling as much. Didn't visit. When I did see him, it was always brief, always in public. He started introducing me as Deborah Roth, never my mom. Said it was better for branding. That people respected distance in business. I swallowed it. He was busy. He had responsibilities. That's what I told myself, but I knew something was wrong the day his assistant called to ask me to sign a few papers, for tax purposes. I didn't understand all of it, but it looked like some kind of property transfer. My name would be on a charitable foundation. Just legal shielding, she said. Evan wants you protected. I trusted him. I signed, and now, here I was, smiling through my teeth at his party while his words sliced my insides raw. Enjoying the $5,000 a month, Mom? It wasn't generosity. It was payment. For silence. For complicity. For staying in the background and looking grateful. I walked away, clutching my drink, barely feeling the warmth in my throat. I passed marble pillars, polished floors, and strangers who smiled at me like I was a fragile ornament. I made it to the restroom and locked the door behind me. My knees buckled. I sat on the cool tile and shook. The memory was still vivid. 3 months ago, I was in a grocery store when a woman tapped me on the shoulder. You're Deborah Roth, right? She had a tablet in her hand, showing me an article, Evan Roth's charity under investigation for financial misconduct. My heart dropped. I laughed it off, said I didn't know anything. But later that night, I searched everything. It wasn't just one article. It was dozens. Quiet accusations. Anonymous tips. Misused funds. Misreported donations. And my name, on almost all the documents. That's when I realized, Evan didn't put me on the charity to protect me. He put me there to use me. As a fall person. As cover. I called him that night, voice shaking. He answered on the 3rd ring. Mom, he said, calm, careful. Let's not overreact. Why is my name on everything? Because you're the public face. People trust a mother's touch. This is fraud. It's smart business. And you're not going to prison for anything. I have lawyers for that. I was stunned silent. Think of it like this, he said, casually. You gave me life. I gave you legacy. He hung up. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? The media? The police? I had no proof, just my name buried in filings and my son's shadow over it all. And the money? That neat $5,000 every month? It wasn't a gift. It was a leash, and now, at his party, surrounded by champagne and lies, he reminded me of it. Enjoying it. I needed air. I left the restroom and drifted through the mansion. Ended up on the balcony. The December air was sharp. Below me, the city sparkled, unaware of the rot inside the tower. A voice joined me. Deep, steady. He treats everyone like that, you know. I turned. A man in a tailored coat stood beside me. Late 50s. Hard eyes. Sorry, I said. Do I know you? No, he said, holding out a card. But I know your son. I took it. James Halvorson, investigative counsel, been trying to talk to you for weeks, he said. But you're harder to reach than the Pope. I stiffened. If this is about Evan, it is. And about you. You're not just collateral, Mrs. Roth. You're a key witness. I shook my head. He's my son. He looked at me evenly. He's using you. And when the feds catch up, they won't care about the family bond. He let that sink in. But I can help you. We can help each other. I stared out into the city, my mind spinning. My whole life, I protected Evan. I lied for him. Bled for him. And now he was setting me up to fall in his place. I thought of the 7-year-old boy who clung to me after his father left. The teen who built computers in our garage. And I realized, that boy was gone, this man in a penthouse with icy hugs and $1,000 smiles? He wasn't my son anymore. He was something else. I turned back to Halvorson. What do you need me to do? Tell the truth, he said. On the record. Help us trace the shell companies. The off-book accounts. You know more than you think. I nodded slowly. It would ruin him. Destroy his empire. End the illusion, but it would save me. Maybe it would even save the part of him that still remembered who he used to be, maybe. Or maybe I'd just finally get my revenge. The decision didn't come easy. I lay awake every night for weeks, staring at the ceiling in my old house, yes, the same house I raised Evan in, because even after all his money, he never once offered to move me out. I thought about the photo albums tucked in the closet. His tiny hand in mine. His high school graduation. His first office, nothing more than a cluttered apartment with laptops strewn like toys, but every memory was now laced with something else. Contempt. Control. Calculation. Halvorson had been patient. He didn't push. Just left me with a folder and a quiet warning, if they come for him, they'll come for you too. And he'll let them. I opened the folder 1 week later. Inside was a map of deception, business filings with my signature on them. Email chains with assistants using my name as a trustee, proof that I'd unknowingly been listed as the sole operator of not one, but 3 shell charities, all of which funneled money back into Roth Innovations. And then there were the accounts. Overseas. Untraceable, except to those who knew where to look. Money laundering, wire fraud, tax evasion. I wasn't just a pawn. I was the scapegoat. I didn't cry. Not this time. I called Halvorson and told him I was in. We met in quiet places, diners off highways, libraries with private rooms. He brought me laptops and headphones. I brought him memories. Receipts. Voice notes. Things Evan said he never thought. I remembered how he told me to just sign the papers, how he laughed when his assistant referred to me as the ghost asset. All the little crumbs I had been too afraid to consider dangerous suddenly formed a clear trail. As the weeks passed, I changed. I became colder. Sharper. I stopped answering Evan's check-in texts. I didn't show up to his product launch gala. He didn't seem to mind, until one day, the wire transfer didn't come. He called. Hey, he said, casual. Everything okay? I noticed the payment didn't come through, I said. He paused. Yeah. I've been thinking, maybe it's time we shift things. You've got a good setup. The charity's in your name, after all. I smiled bitterly. So is the fraud. He went quiet. Mom, he said slowly, what are you talking about? Oh, I think you know. I heard the shift in his tone, tension wrapped in false calm. You've been talking to someone? I've been talking. To the truth, I said. And it's not on your side. He hung up. Within 2 days, 2 men in suits knocked on my door. They didn't say who they worked for, but their message was clear. Evan didn't want me talking. They didn't threaten me outright. They didn't have to. They left a white envelope on my kitchen table and said, think about what you're risking. Inside was a non-disclosure agreement. And a check for $2 million. I stared at it all night. $2 million. More than I'd ever dreamed of. Enough to disappear. Enough to bury the truth forever, but it wasn't enough for peace. I didn't cash it. I handed it to Halvorson the next morning. He didn't smile. He just nodded and said, "That was your test. You passed." The next week was a blur. FBI interviews. Documents notarized. Testimonies recorded. Every step made it more real. Every truth peeled away another layer of guilt, grief, and hope. The indictment hit the news like a bomb. Evan Roth, tech giant, under federal investigation for fraud and money laundering. His photo was everywhere. That smug grin. That too perfect suit. The boy I raised had become a monster of his own making. I stayed off social media. I didn't talk to reporters. But one day, someone rang my doorbell and handed me a letter. No return address. No stamp. It was from Evan. "Mom, I don't know what you've done. But if you think this will end me, you're wrong. You've made a mistake. A big one. Enjoy your moment. It won't last." No apology. No fear. Just arrogance. That night, I watched him on the news, flanked by lawyers, walking into a courthouse like he owned the building. They said he posted bail with money from a private family fund. My fund. He had liquidated one of the shell charities in my name and used the account to secure bail. Even with the world collapsing around him, he was still clinging to me like a lifeline, or a lifeboat he planned to sink when convenient. I was done playing the fool. With Halvorson's help, I froze the remaining accounts. Filed a countersuit. Reclaimed every property and business asset falsely signed over to me. And for the first time, I hired my own legal team, not to protect him, but to protect me from him. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about survival and dignity. Weeks later, I got a call from his assistant, no longer his, technically, since she had quit after the indictment. "Deborah," she said. "I shouldn't tell you this, but Evan's spiraling. He's blaming you for everything. He says he never needed you. That you were always holding him back." I let her words sink in. Then I said, calmly, "He needed me more than I ever needed him." It felt true. For the first time, it felt true. Christmas came again. No invitation this year. No party. No hug. No icy whisper. Just me, in my quiet house, baking cookies for the neighbors, decorating the tree with ornaments Evan once made out of cardboard and glitter. And when I placed the little snowman with its crooked smile on the branch, I whispered, "Merry Christmas, baby." Because somewhere in all this wreckage, I had to believe the boy I loved still existed, buried beneath the empire he built on lies. But if he didn't, well, then I hoped he learned this much from me: never underestimate a mother with nothing left to lose.